Hi there, welcome to No Nonsense Whiskey. My name's VinPF, and on today's episode we're going to be checking out a little double threat from a newer distillery. It's going to be the Jackton Distillery, and here we've got the two RAER offerings. Now, right at the start of the show, it's important to say that I received this one here, the Oloroso finish, as for free from the distillery themselves, and I bought the other one, and I'll go into that in a little bit about why I've done that. But some information about these guys. So Jackton Distillery are fairly new. They're a couple of years old now. They laid down their first casks in February 2020. So, just over 2 years they've been in the casks now. They are just south of Glasgow, near East Kilbride. So, situated well up in the kind of heartland of Scotland, as they say. Some good whiskey stuff going on in that sort of area. What they're doing, as is always the case with newer distilleries, the first 3 years is always tough because there's no revenue, right? So a lot of distilleries are doing different things. Usually it's like a gin and a vodka, which these guys also do. But what they're doing as well is a blended Scotch, this one here and this one here, which is not theirs. There's none of their spirit in this, otherwise they wouldn't be able to call it such. So this is sourced stuff from around and about. Don't know exactly where, don't really need to know. It's pretty common practice, so I won't worry too much about that. In fact, you could argue this is just kind of independently bottled stuff. They just happen to be a distillery as well. So we're going to be reviewing this based on the liquid inside here, nothing else right now. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll explain why I'm doing that, because I've got a little link to another YouTube channel who did a little bit more research than me. But again, we'll go into that a bit later on when we're doing the summary. So yeah, what we have here is a blend, and it's sibling, which has been finished in some Oloroso casks. As far as I'm aware, they're the same base liquid. That's what the kind of marketing on the website leads me to believe. Don't know for sure. They're both 40%. This one sold at £25. This one sold at £35. And at the moment, at the time of recording, I think you can only get hold of these on their website directly from them. There'll be sort of a link below. I imagine that will change over time because it's not a cheap way to kind of get hold of these things. I think obviously this one was sent to me for free, but I think the shipping on this put it up to about £31 or something like that. It was just a significant cost. But yeah, let's crack on with it and see what we've actually got. I've got two glasses back here, and I'll give these my fair assessment and a little bit of a summary at the end. Let's get on to the first one then. So I don't know anything about sort of added colour. You have to assume added colour, chill filtration. This one here, not the standard blend, but the Oloroso says on the website Unfiltered. Not sure exactly what that means. I think it must mean when they transferred between the two, but I don't know for sure. But we'll get into that. Yeah, so standard whiskey colour. Let's get onto the nose and see what we got. Now for me, it's pretty much your standard, your bog standard blended smell. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I like blended whiskies. I know sometimes blended whiskey gets a bad rap these days, but there's a lot of good blends out there. So don't be put off by the word blend necessarily. For me, I get some weird notes on this. There's some sort of hay-like character to this. And one of the weird things I get is like unripe bananas, like a real green banana. Let's try on the palate. Okay, yeah, so for me, this is like big, bold, grain, lead flavour palette. I imagine there's a big old wedge of grain in this. And again, I don't mean that necessarily as a bad thing, just what I'm getting. I like grain whiskies as much as I like malt whiskies. Yeah, it's got a huge kind of tingly finish as well. Lots of pepperiness going on, but I have to say not as much flavour as I would like to see, but it's palatable enough for sure. Let's move on to the next one then. Now, I'm not going to cleanse between these two because I'm making an assumption that they're the relatively same spirit but finished in Oloroso. So that will help me kind of like balance out, cancel out the flavours almost. Now this one here, again, I'm going to have to assume added colour because I don't have any information to say it's not. It's not on the label to say so. Again, 40%, £35. And this unfiltered, whatever that means. But let's see what the difference is on this one. Now, this is a big step up. This is a big step up from the standard blend for sure. I'm going to sort of do a dual sniff on this as well. what was all those kind of like hay, like kind of damp hay, unripe bananas, has now been replaced by a really sweet, big dried fruit vibe. You know, those kind of like rays and sultanas, the things that you would typically get on a kind of Oloroso kind of finish, I would say. But for me, there's an added element of kind of like a fudge almost to it. Let's try on the palate. So on this one, nearly all of those kind of harsh, chemically grained notes have been kind of ironed out, have been kind of smoothed out, and you're kind of getting more of those fruity elements coming through. For me, it is, I mean, it's quite clearly obviously a grain-led blend. There's no denying that. But having tasted the original straight before it, it's kind of helped me differentiate that a little bit. But yeah, I'm getting some kind of like fruits and some chocolates on the back end of this. Now, interestingly, the finish is totally different. Whereas the first one was, you know, no flavour but a lot of spice. This one's the other way around. Lots of flavour, no spice, but it's almost like a candy floss. This is kind of something I sometimes say. A bit of a candy floss vibe. You know, you eat some candy floss, you have a sensation of volume, and that disintegrates, and then gone. That's kind of what happens here. It's got a kind of really nice Oloroso flavour knocking around, a kind of sherry-led flavour knocking around. That peters off while you're still drinking it and disappears off, and then the palate kind of finishes and the finish finishes and it's gone. That said, not a bad thing. Again, I'm saying a lot of things that could be construed as negative, and I don't mean it like that. It's just my sensations that I'm getting. So it's worth pointing out that there's a massive step up between this. You know, you can see in the livery we've got a screw cap here, which I've got like a screw cap, I have to say. But we've got a nice cork, you know, synthetic cork. The bottle here is, I'm probably not doing that justice there, but the bottle here is really quite lovely. You know, if you're going to make a bottle, you may as well make it lovely, right? So I think, you know, in terms of these two, this is, you know, the absolute winner of the two. I have to say, in terms of costing, I think it's they're both probably a touch too expensive for my liking, especially when you factor in the postage on these. You know, this one, including the postage, is going to push you up into the 40 odd pound category, and there's a lot of spirits out there that would compete with that. But again, I have to say, you know, we're talking about a brand new business who are trying to make ends meet while they're producing their whiskey and other spirits, I assume. That they've got to do something. And it's always a struggle. You know, there's so much choice out there. So really, it depends on your desire to try something new with a new label on it or whatnot, and support new businesses while they're kind of producing something. And I think that's important in this case, because what I'm going to do here is, you should see now, I'm going to throw up a little kind of graphic that will play while I'm talking. During COVID, obviously, I'm not allowed to kind of travel too much. It's been a struggle for me to get up to Scotland. Really want to. So I haven't been able to visit these guys. But Whisky Diary down here, old Ben, he lives just around the corner from them. So I pinged him a message and said, you should go and check these guys out. So he's been down there to see what they're doing. Not just to try these, though he has. He's been down there to see what they're doing with their new make and their casks choices and whatnot. And he's got some very, very, very interesting and complimentary things to say about how they're producing their spirits. So we can kind of infer from that you know, I think maybe next year, I think if they release a 3-year-old, whatever, I think next year we're going to be seeing something remarkably different from them than these two, and these will sort of slowly fade once they've done that, like many other distilleries have done. So yeah, there'll be a link in the description to Ben's video. Make sure you go and check that out, because it's well worth watching. He can do a bit more research that I've not been able to achieve on this particular video. But yeah, for me, going back to these actual bottles themselves, I think, my personal opinion, I would give this one a miss, the blend, unless you are like super into your kind of youthful blend whiskies. You know, you want to try something that's got a different label on it. You know, there's not much there for me, I have to say. But that's just me. You know, it might be great in a mixing for cocktails and whatnot. This one's much better. It's, you know, dare I say, the smoothness is definitely there. Very, very easy drinking, which might not be for everybody. You know, if you're watching this and you're looking for those big, bold, high ABV flavours, fair enough. This ain't that. But if you're after some super easy sipping, you want to support a local business, especially if you're in Scotland and you're into that kind of like supporting new distilleries coming through. Check it out, you know. I mean, if you can get to them, then you save on that postage for a start, and you can go and check out a new distillery. I'm sure they'd welcome the visit. I'd love to go and see them at some point. Yeah, and as I said earlier, probably a touch expensive for my liking. I'd like to see this on the right side of 30 before shipping, but that's really a minor complaint, you know, for a new establishment. I get it. It is what it is. Worth checking out if you're in the area. Hopefully these guys will get themselves on like Master of Mole, or dare I say Amazon or whatnot in the UK, and you should be able to get hold of it a bit easier. Sorry to the people that are further abroad, you know, you're not going to be able to get hold of this anytime soon, I would wager, but do keep Jackton Distillery and RAER Whisky on your kind of radar. You know, go follow them on social media and whatnot, because, you know, over the next year I think they're going to be releasing some amazing stuff, if the Whiskey Diary is to be believed. Go and check out that video. In any case, I'll see you on more videos in the future. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. Drop a like if you have, and of course a subscription. Thank you.